As we approach Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, I will teach you more about phylacteries and the tassels. These are part of prayer garb for male Jews. But if you want to, Google them to see what they look like and see how they are worn. Our lesson today is on prayer all day for everyone and everything. Essentially, everything becomes a part of your dialogue with God, which is a prayer. Every joy becomes a reason for praise. Every trial is an opportunity to ask for help. Prayer is always alive in life, like embers of fire. Even when the mouth does not speak, your heart is speaking to God. Every thought, even apparently profane ones, can be permeated by prayer, which illuminates the few steps in front of us, then opens up to the entire reality that precedes it and surpasses it. Christian prayer instills an invincible hope in the human heart. By whatever experience we touch on our journey, God's love can turn it into good. In this regard, let us briefly, ever so briefly, look at an instance from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which says, "We learn to pray at certain moments by hearing the word of the Lord and sharing in his paschal mystery. But his Spirit is offered to us at all times, in the events of each day, to make prayer spring up from us. Time is in the Father's hands. It is in the present that we encounter him, not yesterday or tomorrow, but today." End of example. This example highlights for all Christians how our prayers are an intrinsic part of us, originating out of the very first instance of prayer we learned as children, the bedtime prayers. As you matured, more able to mentally grasp concepts of Christianity, you included them into your personal prayer life, the resurrection, the Word, the mysteries of the Christian faith, and the Father, always and ever controlling the prayer faith time horizon, as he was, as he is, and as he ever will be, unchanged and divine forever and ever. There are people who look to the future without taking today as it comes. They live in a world of fantasy and don't know how to live the concrete reality of today. They are not mentally healthy. And these people, whom we all know, we must pray for their mental health. For every time the reality of today intrudes or forces itself into their life, there is an inevitable loss of stability of their mental health and life functioning. Bipolarism, untreated, is one of the most common of these groups, but there are 12 other common diagnoses that fit. It is prayer that transforms the today we are living into grace, or rather, it transforms us. Prayer appeases anger, sustains love, multiplies joy, and instills the strength to forgive. Grace lives and works in us. The problems we face no longer seem to be obstacles to our happiness, but appeals from God, opportunities to encounter him. When you are angry or unhappy, thoughts turn to bitterness. You should stop and turn to God. The Lord, who is there, will give you the right word and advice in order to go ahead without that bitterness. When one is accompanied by the Lord, he or she feels more courageous, freer, and happier. We invite Christians to pray always, not just for our dear ones, but for everyone, including all of those we do not know. Let us especially pray even for our enemies, as the scriptures command us to do, for prayer inclines us toward an overabundance of love. Pray for those who are sad and for those who weep or mourn in solitude and despair, wondering whether there is still someone who loves them. The prayer of a Christian works miracles by making present the compassionate of Christ for the poor, for those who weep and mourn. Pray for those who are agnostic and atheist, or for those who claim to be agnostic or atheist but simply have no knowledge or education or anything. My stepsister and my stepmother, though neither appreciates or accepts these titles of affiliation. With the death of my father, these are the titles which bind us. Thus I use them as a declaration and acknowledgement of who they are and who they shall forever be to me. They have neither had any education or experience with Christ. But when my father returned to the church, when he regained his relationship with Christ, Linda, his wife, saw the great joy that this brought. She said, "His face just glows with happiness whenever he comes back from a mass thing or one of his church events. It has so deeply changed him. I would be a fool to not be curious, to not attend with him at times." Jesus, in fact, looked with great tenderness on the weary and lost crowd who were like sheep without a shepherd. Compassion, closeness, and tenderness, he stresses, are the Lord's style. Prayer helps us love others, despite their humanity of mistakes and sins, stressing that the person is always more important than their actions. And Jesus did just that. He did not judge the world, but saved it. We wonder how bad and unhappy life must be for those who always judge and condemn others, instead of opening their hearts, forgiving, justifying others, being close to others, and having compassion and tenderness like Christ. Pray for victims of disasters, poor governmental processes, ingrained treachery and graft that holds a system in stasis where bribes are the norm. Vaccinations cannot be distributed to those with the greatest medical need, for their system has no ability to see or gauge this. It only has graft. Pray for the children, that they may be children again, and never again hear the sounds of a sniper's bullet killing someone walking beside them, the death rattle of a sibling or parent, or know the sound of bombs approaching their bunker. We need to love each and every person and remind ourselves that we are all sinners, and at the same time loved individually by God. This way, we will discover that every day and everything bears within it a fragment of God's mystery. It is right and good to pray so that the coming of the kingdom of justice and peace may influence the march of history. But for this to happen, it is important to bring the help of prayer into humble, everyday situations. All prayer can be the leaven to which the Lord compares the kingdom. We are fragile beings, but we know how to pray, which is our greatest dignity as well as our strength. Pray in every moment, and in every situation, because the Lord is near. And when a prayer is said according to the heart of Jesus, that prayer obtains miracles.